All right, guys, so we are back in Burlington. I mean, the last vlog that you saw, I was in San Antonio. I had such a good time. This week was a bit of like, this past week that I was back home was a bit of like a weird week for me. Like I still like train and stuff, but like all weekend. So like I trained Friday, but all weekend, Saturday and Sunday. I actually have been doing like really good, like just training and everything wise, like for the past like few weeks, which I'm very happy. But I do get in those places sometimes that like, I'll kind of, it's hard to kind of even admit, but like kind of give up on myself, and I'm just like, kind of like fuck it. So it's kind of where I was just like going through a lot of things, like just like emotionally and just like with like personal life. So I kind of like just like gave up on myself, said like fuck it, and kind of like I didn't train all weekend. I didn't do really like cardio. I was just like I kind of like ate whatever I wanted, which my body's not happy with. But the next 4 weeks, so 4 weeks is the Olympia. I want to do that for myself, but also feel good, like and like look good. And so I kind of want to go. I don't want to do like a mini cut. I don't want to like lower my calories or anything, but just like put my head down, focus, and like get just a little bit leaner and see also like what muscle I've built, because I've been like getting stronger. I've been like building muscle obviously in the past few weeks since I competed in New York. So that's going to be like fun. But I also promised myself that I would keep doing content for you guys no matter what I'm going through, or like if I'm happy or not with where I'm at. So I mean, the one thing with me is no matter what like route I'm going through, or like if I'm like couple days I can like in a bad path, I'm able to like pull myself back and go back and focus, which is like usually the hardest things for people. Once they're in that place, they have a hard time like getting out of it. So anyhow, today I'm filming and training shoulders with Eric, which I'm super excited about, because I train back with Eric. I train legs, I train glutes and hamstring, I train arms. So pretty much like shoulders is the only thing I haven't trained yet. And if you guys are new here, I have all those videos on my YouTube. So go look it out, because it's a lot of good learning tips for you guys. But it's the first time I'm gonna kind of go through shoulders. So I'm actually very excited to see what tips he has and like little tricks to make it interesting. So let's get into it. All right, so first movement we're gonna start with is?
We're gonna do a shrug, okay? We're not really hugely worried about shrugs for this sort of class of bodybuilder, but we do have to get her shoulder blades to move really well. So we're gonna do a cable wide pull to get her to move her shoulder blades from varying positions, and then we're gonna progress through the workout.
And what would you say? I feel like a lot of people are gonna be like, oh, but like I'm like trap dominant, I don't wanna grow my trap, like my trap are so big, like.
Yeah, so a lot of the concern with traps and avoiding them, especially in the female athletes, is concern for upper trap, but then they ask me for development of all their lower and middle trap, which is part of this whole motion. So again, we have to get the whole scapula to move. Shrugs in a classic position is generally not going to get our shoulder blades to move enough. Okay. So that's mostly going to be an upper dominant. This is going to ask our shoulder blades to move quite a bit. Okay. All right, so when we have to back up, so now it's not a classic shrug. It kind of feels a bit like a row, right? We're going to think our upper arm kind of matches the cable, right? So if I'm watching my bicep, and then from there, this is going to feel like it has to come up and in and down and out, follow the cable. There we go. And the same idea, we really have to think about putting our legs in the ground. Okay, some people are just standing on them versus actually thinking inside edges of your feet. And we can get the shoulder blades to move around the rib cage. So they're gonna come around, and she's gonna have to pull. What we don't wanna see is the elbow start to wanna bend here. Good, you're gonna walk forward. And just that little change, about a yard, a couple feet, and all of a sudden this has to come a little higher, right? She has to end up here. Her target is going to be up behind her, down and away, up behind her, and she's going to walk forward again, right about there. So now she's still,
my ends here?
Yeah, still there. Okay. Yeah, that might change a little bit now. But now her target, this is about as high as she's going to get. And that sense of her arms Coming up and in, dragging out. And what you'll see, if somebody gets a little tighter, they'll start want to bend their elbows to pick it up. We want to keep our arms straight so we get that idea of moving it with our shoulder blades. There we go. Last one. And relax. There you go. Now ultimately, if we started thinking, where does that fit for side laterals now? Oh, it's pretty easy to feel like,
Oh yeah, you can feel like moving.
yeah, my arms now, I can keep my shoulder blades moving, but not feel like I'm trap dominant in something side lateral right. So we don't have to make this a big part, but we're just going to do 2 sets to try and warm up. And
yeah,
okay, it feels pretty easy to just find them now. You can change your plane, you can choose whatever, but the shoulder blade will go.
Yeah, it's like moving.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, now it's going to feel short, right? It's going to feel like a short movement. It's going to feel kind of back, lower middle back there. There you go. And it's that idea of having to bring my shoulder blades around versus in. I have to bring my shoulder blades around my rib cage. So I'd have to almost wrap them around wider. They'll want to come in. Think about holding wider. There you go. Good. Change the view. Good. Take a step in. Good. And that feeling of my arms are just ropes versus my hands want to grab it, right? So I can pick it up with my shoulders. There we go. One more. Good. Okay, we walk in. So this is always a confusing spot because I'm probably maybe 10 or 15 degrees back from the cable, but that typically is the plane of the scapula, which wrap around the rib cage. So this will give you the most height because it'll feel like you can come all the way up there. Oh my gosh, way up there. And if we're going into upward rotation, that lower trap and middle trap is also working. There we go, and that feeling of lifting it. Good, the arms almost come off the body. Last one, up. And relax, good. There, see? Nice and easy.
Kind of exercise that your face go with it. So, you know when you try to keep your face relaxed, but when I do those, it's like
yeah,
my face
you end
goes
up
with it. Yeah.
like you swallowed a bug.
Yeah. I asked on my Instagram yesterday just some question about like just for him to answer today about shoulders. So someone's asking, how can I lift heavier if I struggle with elbow pain?
Ah, yes. Usually, so you typically have an alignment problem with typically a pressing position or usually a grip-related issue that's creating a more dominant sort of hand. Sometimes when you have stronger athletes with smaller hands, they put a lot of pressure on their grip. So we both hold on to the dumbbell the same way, but she ends up like putting a lot of pressure. So I do hear that with some of the smaller athletes that are really strong. They end up over gripping, and then from that position, where everything feels like a fat grip for you.
Yeah.
And so they end up like kind of creating more and more work at their hand and then create elbow problems. So you have to kind of retool that. We have to kind of talk about how you're gripping and potentially step back a little bit. It would probably also imagine, are these with pressing motions or pulling motions before we decide what's really going on.
Oh, up on those?
No, just on the lip. Just so you feel like you're on a wedge.
Okay.
Well, like a ramp, okay? All right, so we're having her push down on these. And if she pushes down equally, she will end up pushing herself forward, right? As opposed to starting to see any kind of, now this is not a heavy weight for her, she wouldn't show you that, but some of us would, where we start lifting her chest and then the plane of motion is backwards versus outwards. So we're gonna show me a very simple side lateral. Awesome. So in other words for this is shoulder abduction, meaning away from you, where most people think about this as up and down. Her arms are actually moving towards her and away from her and towards her versus what the dumbbell feels like, which is people say, I want to pick it up and I want to put it down, right? But if I said these are going to feel like they fall into her side, and they fall into her side, right? It's her job to feel like there's a sharp bend here on the way back in. Otherwise, she will put it down, and then there's the dreaded upper trap feeling. So we're gonna push the arms away. Good. We're gonna push the arms away and towards you and away from you and towards you. Last one. And push away from, there you go, and relax.
It's like 30 reps here.
I know, but it's so light for you.
I know.
Okay, so that feeling of in as opposed to down.
Okay.
Because that's when people are worried about like, oh, my trap.
Yeah, it's
and
like
I'm like,
you're not losing it.
you're
like,
feeling this, and then you start to put the dumbbell down, which means this is the motion.
Does that make sense if I'm like almost like putting my chest up?
Yeah, yeah.
So, like,
It would almost be like, what does your front relaxed look like for you?
I don't have one.
But assume that you've in any of the classes that you've
No,
ever
no.
seen.
Yeah.
There you go. Now, there's your side lateral, and there's your front relaxed. And there's your side lateral, and there's your front relaxed. See how it's not, all of a sudden, look who has to hold all that work, and you
Yeah,
see how
actually.
wide you stay, as opposed to pick them up and put them down, right? And as soon as you start putting them down, it's like, oh, I feel this in my trap. Because
okay, yeah.
that becomes
Because pulling,
that
yeah.
becomes the thing you're starting to focus on,
Okay.
okay? So those of us that have a front relaxed. Atta girl, last one, out. Nice, much better.
Oh, shit.
Yeah. So that feeling of like, oh, I'm throwing them away versus, oh, I'm doing everything I can to get up, right? That feeling of, oh, I gotta get up versus, no, I gotta push out. Okay, you'd even feel your shirt almost kind of moving with you.
Yeah.
Does that make sense,
Yeah.
right? Right, you're a very good athlete to sort of time out. If I said, oh, I just want you to slow it down a little bit. And I don't really care how many you do, but all of a sudden, like, oh, they got harder, right? Sometimes when we get focused on heavier, it starts turning into sort of rep timing and skill, as
Yeah.
opposed to, well, let's make you not skilled at this and let's change your pace a little bit. So like a 1.5 of what you're actually doing,
Go slower.
right? Just so you have to slow it down. No, you're perfect. You're prettier than me though, so you should probably go.
Here, you can be on video, there's no problem.
All right, away we go. So like a 1.5, and then push. 2.5, there we go. 3.5, oh my goodness. 4.5, that falling in, there we go, push out. 5.5, good, falling in, push. 6.5, there we go. 7.5, good. 8.5,
No.
good. 9.5 and 10.5, you're done. Good, one more. 10.5, there. And in. That's it. Much better. Drive down. Good. Whoa, 12 reps became a disaster.
I wouldn't say disaster, but
I'm talking about the internal. I'm talking about the internal environment.
yeah.
The reps were great, but I'm talking about the internal environment
Yeah.
of, oh.
That was a disaster.
You're literally like walking in circles.
I know, I'm antsy.
It's when she starts walking around in circles.
Can't stand still.
Circle
Almost missed
away.
my flight twice because I'm so antsy. I walk everywhere.
Oh, really?
Oh yeah,
What if we went up slower and came down faster?
I can try that.
Oh! So we're gonna push up 1.5 and then you get to come in. Push up 1.5 and get to fall in. There we go. Push up and that distinct falling in. There you go. That's better. Good. Distinct. There. Go. That's it. Great job. Falling in. There. To your sides. Falling into your sides. Push the ground. Right. Don't lift it. Push it away. Push. In. Push. In. Last one. Atta girl. Okay. Right, so we get a really great athlete that's really strong, and you change some skill, and all of a sudden that became a different exercise,
Yeah.
right? Okay. We're gonna be pushing uphill, as opposed to what this one is set up classically for, is almost pushing
Yeah.
backwards, okay, right? And so this is gonna feel like we can change the height of the seat and everything gets the setup, but we're gonna load sort of the middle and bottom so that
Okay.
it feels not like a big deal to get from here, but
So
then
heavier
you
at
have to
top?
you have to get heavier here, okay?
Okay.
Does that make sense? All right, now I'm gonna widen your hands just a little bit, because at the
I
bottom,
always go like so like in though.
yeah, so come out and my hands equal to mine. There you go. So from here, what we want is like 90 degrees here. I don't want to be inside of that. Does that make, no, yeah, I don't want to be inside of here.
Okay.
Because that's like, a lot of wrist pressure,
okay,
right?
Yeah, I don't want to be like.
Yeah, if you're in there, you're starting from that wrist.
Okay.
There you go. Come back in again. So we're not really putting it down. We're just doing this and this. So I would say bring the elbow in. You can follow your bicep out and follow your bicep in. There you go. So it's kind of snap the elbows inwards. There, so that's not up and down, that's out and in. There we go. We use our legs because we're pushing it uphill, right? There, last one. Yeah. See what I mean, right?
Yeah.
So it's this motion versus how do I get focused on up and down.
I think why it's like hard sometimes for like even for people, it's like the range of motion feels shorter.
Yeah.
So people doesn't think it's like
No, there's no value.
doing the full
Yeah.
motion, right?
Or they pay attention to where their hands are, and so their hand has to travel farther,
Yeah.
so they want to think about up and down.
I feel like we should have like started with that question, but how to warm up shoulder properly? Like, is there any movement you were like, or just starting with an exercise like kind of like we did, or?
Yeah, okay, so obviously most people I would work on things in terms of mobility. I don't think we need a huge amount of stretching. We could have shown a bunch of that. Something as simple as arm circles in multiple directions, front and back, you know, towel reaches, any type of stuff like that is super easy to go through. And then you're really just talking again about how does the scapula and collarbone move well to set you up for all the loaded positions.
Okay, so it doesn't have to be like crazy. I know like I see people like with the bands for like hours, or like I used to do those dumbbell things.
Yeah, usually when you see people doing that, it's because they've already been given maybe some rehab ahead of time, like they already have a problem, and so they want to make sure that they're working on external rotation, or it's been identified they don't have internal rotation, so they should work on it. Obviously that takes a bigger exploration, you know, and if you've been told, you know, to do some of those things, you know, and it works for you, great. If we watch it on YouTube and think, I don't do that, but I don't have any problems, I would probably just focus on getting your shoulders warm and movement. Yeah, scapular more than anything else.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing. Is like we see like so many things. Even for me, like sometimes I'm questioning, like, man, should I warm up more? Should I be on the turf for fucking 20 minutes? I need to be better than swearing. For like 20 minutes, because you see people like doing so many things and like being so like, you know what I mean, or like, but then it's like don't also believe everything is put on social media, because I can be putting a stretching routine, which I've done in the past, and to be honest, I never stretch, which is also not good, but like not everyone does that every single day, every single workout. Yeah.
So all I have to do is realize where does it feel like 90 degrees? It's like, oh, there it is, right? And if somebody was smaller, sure, no problem. But it's, you know, it's like I got to go a whole different direction, and then I get elbow pain.
It's almost like when you're stretching, you should be here.
Yeah, I should be in this.
Like,
I should be in this position so I can push equally. Versus I have to do something different at my wrist. Okay, does that make more sense, right? And sometimes when you're smaller, you're like, oh, I should be in here. I'm like, no, your wrist was already like jammed in, right? It's like out position.
Yeah,
right?
I think that's me. I'm like, always tend to like want to go. And I kind of have two questions that kind of like similar, but so someone's asking, how do you hit all adds of the shoulders in one workout? Anterior, lateral, posterior, and then someone's asking how to grow anterior shoulders because it tweaks in most cases, followed by rear delt.
So typically head development, you can see how well she has here. So is almost like you could argue 6 sections versus 3, right? Because you have a more pronounced anterior, and then another one that comes here, and then you have sort of a front and back for middle, and then you have on rear delt, you have here, and then you have one that wraps way back here to come around. And so when you're picking out which head do I want to work on, whether you're saying I want this to be, I have to design or pick out the forces to be coming to create this shortening between here and here, or I have to create shortening between here and here, or I have to get, this is a little harder, I have to get scapular motion and arm motion between here and here. Widen, But if I ask you, and this is a little harder, we're gonna try and get some front delt here. That means I'm gonna ask you to take these and I'm gonna tell you to push into this post.
Okay.
So the whole time you're gonna take these posts and you're gonna shove them in. Even when they're all the way out here, you're gonna try and keep pushing into this post. And that means you're trying to shorten the front head. Does that make more sense, right?
Yeah. Would it get side delt at the same
Oh,
time?
side delt for sure.
Okay.
Side delt
So
for sure.
there is exercise that can like target multiple.
But in this case, this is a side delt exercise. We are asking for this, but if she starts pushing these up into this post, she's gonna get the front head try and short, okay?
Should I? It doesn't matter if it doesn't touch.
No?
Okay.
No.
Just where I can.
Yeah, where you can. But that idea that the elbows are now gonna follow because you're pushing into this, okay? So we're not gonna end up out here, you're gonna end up like up there. Yep, by the time you get to the top, you'll look like this, Val. You're gonna be coming
Maybe
in.
put 45 for me.
I'm gonna put 30, there you go. Super easy. There you go. Yeah, you can see it on her right away. So she's pushing in. You can see these guys working, but you can also see these ones coming around the front because she's gonna follow that in. So as she's pushing out, she's also pushing in on that. You feel the difference in that?
Yeah.
There you go. So even when you're down there, you're trying to shove those posts into wherever that direction is. So now you're trying to push up in.
Oh, yeah.
Now you're trying to push in. Now you're pushing downhill in. There we go. Yeah, there you go. So by the time you're up there, you're gonna be hooded, kind of like that. That's better. There, great job. Oh, delts pop right out. There we go. Push in on it, in on it. There, like you're gonna stab the machine. Good, we're just gonna get your head out of there. Head back up on top. Head back on top. Atta girl. Never do this typically because now you've got forces going across the shoulder, but now you have a different thing here that's not just vertical. So now you could be pushing into this thing, right?
Would it work on a machine like that if people didn't have like a stand?
Sure.
They
Sure.
just kind of like, yeah.
You're gonna
this
try and
away.
shove into the machine.
It's like you're never resting.
Yeah, you never rest. You can see Phil front delt just pops right out.
Making me think of an eagle.
Yeah, you're gonna look kind of like you. So I used to see an old school bodybuilding be like, oh, go up and dump the pail. The problem is the weight is sitting here. So there's nothing resisting. The internal rotation has nothing to do with but now you have something to push into. Try and push into this handle. Like lots of people grab these handles like they could,
They
you
use their
know,
hands most
they
likely.
could use their hands to do this. And I'm like, no, you could push into this. So I could,
Okay, you actually push on those.
I'm pushing through them, yeah.
Okay.
I'm pushing through that handle and now I get that front delt thing again.
Oh, so the same, gotcha.
Yeah, so now I have that. Now this is still gonna kind of follow me around because I have to stay in the plane of this, but I'm gonna try. Most people are grabbing and holding on to these handles like they can lift with them, but you're just gonna try and push against them. So I should never feel this upper pad leave the skin of my forearm, and you get a lot of people where it's rolling around all over the place. So we're just gonna push into those handles.
Again, out and up.
Yeah.
Easier to feel it.
Well, you
I
got
feel like
more.
they're just more
You got
like-
more planes of stuff to deal with here,
Yeah.
right? This is like, wait, there's multiple hingey things going
Yeah.
on, you know. But if I didn't have this and I have a chance, I could probably approximate it here.
I think like because you're feeling the pressure you're putting into that compared
Yeah.
to like there. Sometimes you're like, kind
But once again, it's like, look, I'm following my bicep.
Yeah.
I'm following so front of your delt, pec, right? Front of your delt and bicep, long head of bicep are all really right in one spot.
Yeah.
Very close to each other. So if I follow my bicep, I can find my front delt.
Yeah.
Right? I need some kind of forward to direction through that bicep, and I can probably find front delt right away.
Okay. Like it kind of clicked the last set that I did there when he said like can like in, but like bicep in. It's like almost like as like I'm pushing there. It's like almost you're like, I was like picturing like trying to push my bicep together, and I could really like feel it. So sometimes it's just like getting that like exact like idea of like word for you that clicks. Like everyone's different in terms of learning. So yeah, it just did click for me.
So you can follow your biceps.
Yeah.
So-
So I asked Eric to try them on the cable because for me it's just, I don't know, there's just something that doesn't click. So I just want to go over them for me,
Sure.
for myself.
So
That's pretty
lots of options with a cable system in terms of like head dominance, because all I have to do is line up this to whatever head I want to try to challenge. So if I'm on a front, I'm going to have this front to back. If I'm kind of front side, I'm going to start sneaking out. I can start changing it from behind. I can walk it out. And I can be like, I'm going to keep this in front of me. But chances are I'm looking at sort of abduction is in the scapular plane. What people get caught with is like trying to come, or like they think their body is very flat. And the reality is everybody's rib cage is kind of shaped like an egg. And so the back of the shoulder blades are meant to fit. And so when we start coming out, it's like when my hands are in front of me, like, well, but look, my elbows are beside me. But most people are lining it up where their hands are on their side. That means my arm is now
Gotcha.
starting behind. So that's usually what's really happening, okay? So give that a shot. Let's just see.
So what would you
Just show me a
recommend?
simple side lateral,
Okay.
that's fine. So your target will be over here. Because this is the plane of your scapula here.
Oh, okay, so that's
You
so,
feel
yeah.
it now? Yeah.
I was like, I don't do that, and then I do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know what you mean. It feels like
Yeah.
really like in like
Yeah.
front.
Yep. Versus that
Like in your
feeling of
head,
like,
but-
oh, I should be back here.
Yeah.
And now it's either cutting across me or I'm feeling like that kind of motion.
Yeah.
Versus this is shoulder coming out. There. You'd probably see your hand in your peripheral vision.
Yeah.
Does that make sense, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. You can see it right at the bottom. Now this is also in, so this doesn't drop off like a dumbbell.
So would you
Right.
recommend to go into like get the stretch,
Yeah,
but keep that
yeah,
up?
yeah, that's perfect right there. Yeah, you can choose to pick a different angle. You go further out. You could choose to start, stop. You could choose to go from there. Yep, go from there. You could choose to stop there. Oh my goodness, you could choose to stop here and here. You could choose here and here. And
that's a fun game.
there you go. There's just this thing of skill, right? There you go. See, so that's really just focusing on movement of the shoulder, not fooling yourself with the dumbbell. And that just never drops off.
So it really doesn't matter like where you go from and where. Just
No.
can play around
No,
with it.
you can play the game of half, full, quarter, start, stop. Like now you've got all this stuff, especially with something like this that doesn't have a lot of inertia. It's a great
Does
system.
it, okay. Does it change? Okay, let's say if I go to here, but then if I go to here, does it go all the way up though? You know what I mean? If I,
Yeah, it's still challenged, but what's happening with the cable?
like if I do just half, I'm not getting all the like. I'm
No,
not
no,
targeting
your
all the
whole
way up.
shoulder's still doing it.
Okay.
But this is still the short S.
Okay.
But what you're seeing with a cable system, where you see 90 degrees is typically where it's starting to get heavy.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
As it starts coming up, you're getting shorter, but the weight is actually lightening. So it's like a cam system all built by itself. Okay, does that
Okay,
make sense?
yeah.
But it's still, I'm getting, the weight's lightening, but not that much, and I'm getting shorter and shorter and shorter, so it's getting harder and harder and harder. So
Okay.
the whole shoulder
But
is
it's
still
still
being
target.
challenged here. And
Okay.
there you go.
Yeah.
There we go. There. So it's still that, right? Still a weight.
Okay.
I don't have a dumbbell, so I can actually think of this nice long arm, push out, there. So a lot of times I'll be cueing this, and I'll say, I want you to imagine the bottom of your arm getting longer, and longer, and longer, versus the top of your arm getting shorter. That's what everybody puts their focus on. What if I say we're gonna push, use our legs to push this away? There you go. And then it's towards, and I'm out here, just waiting for it, right out here. Yeah, I'm out here. I'm way out. There we go. And so all we can see these folding in. Yep, you're good. Still beautiful. There we go. Push away. Push away. Push away. Because what's happening here is not what's happening here. These muscles are lengthening. These muscles are shortening. She's pushing the shoulder blade out. And that arm's getting farther and farther away as all those guys get short. And then we maybe play that game again where she stops. And she stops. And she stops. And she goes. And she stops. And she goes. All the way up.
Yeah.
Well, we're gonna start here and then I'm gonna lower it.
So would you ever, I feel like like a lot of time I would put them really high. Is it good or like?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, so it doesn't.
So,
it's
no,
good to play
yeah.
with
So
that.
when it's high, some of the weight of your arm is gonna be carried. But as I start to lower this, you're gonna have to carry your arms.
Gotcha.
So nothing else will change, but the weight will be coming off here. Or we can start moving in and out if you wanted to, right? So probably split your stance just because we're gonna have that feeling of sort of stepping into it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And your target is like over there, right? So this arm has to reach over there. That's it. So it's gonna need our shoulder blades to move because this is that rear delt that she was talking about. Because now it's not just trying to pull her in like a standard rear delt, it's trying to pull her forward. And so she has to think about going across, stepping into her front leg to push. There we go. Now because it's up this high above her shoulder height, it's carrying the weight of her arm somewhat, so she doesn't have to worry about that yet. But this exercise gets very heavy really fast. So another way to deal with weight is to start adding an angle for her. Squeeze. Good. Reach. There we go. So that cable system now is just a little bit above her shoulder height. It's already heavier for her, I guarantee it. Good. Target's over here. There you go. So it's a lot of reaching forward to make that shoulder blade move. That's where that rear delt lives. There you go. Great job. 3 left. 2 left. Reach forward. Good. There. Much better. Good. Whoa.
Okay, someone asked rear, felt, and engaging them. I guess she's asking like, instead of trap.
Oh, yeah. So a lot of it still comes back down to, there's a lot of misunderstanding about trying to keep your traps out of things. So they pin the shoulders down, and then all the shoulder blade is trying to figure out is how to use the upper trap to reorient. And so the more we try and pull them down, the more the trap's gonna get
So you
involved.
don't want to just stay there.
No,
You wanna allow
the
them
shoulder
to
blade
move.
has to move. Yeah, you
So-
can see how elaborate it is for you to get your shoulder blades to move.
So if you're allowing them to move, how do you get people to like move but still keeping them out of the equation?
So there's always going to be involved. The question is if you try and reduce the scapula from moving at all, the arm can be coming into a bone, and the shoulder blade is trying to figure out how to stop impingement, and it's trying to desperately think I've got to use one part of my trap more than anything else, and then that becomes this vicious cycle of I'm trying to get it out, but I can't get it out, and I'm trying to hold my shoulders down, and now I can't find rear delt because I'm trying to pin my shoulder blades. And typically what you're not seeing is if you hold your shoulder blades down, there's an angle that you cannot get anymore here.
It's locked.
And so all of a sudden it's like, I'm trying to do this to get this out, and all the body's doing is trying to get this to give you some space. So the upper trap becomes super dominant.
So you're almost making it worse because you're tensing
Yeah, you're
now.
trying to avoid it, and you're actually creating the problem.
So trap's always going to be involved, but like, so people cannot get scared of like them getting involved a bit.
Yeah,
like,
but them
It's not gonna grow
being
them.
involved is traps
Flying
involved
into it.
now. but people
Yeah.
are saying, oh, I want to hold this down, and then
Yeah.
I can't get my rear delt, and they don't realize they've changed they've
Yeah.
pulled a bunch of bone down on top of this.
Some people are so scared to like grow like their like trap, but then at the same time it's like
Yeah,
if
it's
you
it's a
don't train-
vicious
they're
yeah,
not
it's a
gonna
vicious
grow.
cycle. The more they avoid it, the worse it gets.
Yeah.
Ah, girl. Kind of never comes off. Okay, so that weight is no heavier, but you no longer you have more and more disadvantage now. Yep. Oh, it's just heavy in a different spot. Good. Oh my goodness. Yep. You'll run into the heavy in a different spot. Atta girl. Good. Can you come forward in front of the machine? Oh. Oh. Whoa. There, you gotta walk into it. Think about step through as you push. Oh my goodness. Atta girl. Very nice. A lot harder than it looks, eh? That stupid
yeah.
bench. Okay, but then you might say like, wow, they got good at that and I moved them here and it's a whole different exercise, or I can move them up and down this line, and right, all of a sudden that's a whole different exercise.
Yeah.
But you feel how the delts eventually have to carry all of that, right? And all you had to do is just, like, not a lot of us are gonna be pushing side lateral stuff down there. So I could just start to make it heavier this way. It's like so much easier to create small variations before I go back to getting heavy,
Yeah.
right?
Maybe we can go over that like another video or something, and like even like you guys can tell like what you guys want to kind of us going over, but just like even in terms of like people are asked often like programming and like what's the best workout. I know like there's none, but like I feel like training with you, I've learned like I'm like just so I think like especially as bodybuilder we're so used to have our like training. It's like okay, I'm starting with rear delt and like to like warm up, and then or like even with quads, like I'm like, oh, like for me it's weird to like just start with like a leg extension or like a hack squat, because I'm like, well, I'm not warmed up, or like not warmed up, but you know what I mean? It's like I have that idea of like I need to do a hamstring first to like go into quads, or I have to do a rear delt to go into shoulders, and then with you it's like one day you're like, okay, let's start with a leg press, and I'm like, okay. It's like, you know what I mean? And like even finishing with rear delt, so just I think it would be interesting even like going more in depth with that, or like
Sure, yeah. A lot of people are kind of affected by the powerlifting model or Olympic lifting model, where the big lifts take the most energy, or compound lifts take the most energy, so we don't waste a lot of energy or time before we get to them, so they become the priority. You know, we squat early in the workout, not late, because we want to see the most amount of load in those. But if we're really back to development and stress, yeah, you know, it's a bit of a mind switch to see I'm doing something that I normally would warm up with as an end exercise, but I got a lot out of it. And then instead of what athletes will do set by set, rep by rep, we'll just get really good at skills. So if you did an exercise like this first, we always do rear delt first. You meet out exactly a certain amount of energy, you're certainly tired or ready at a certain point, and all of a sudden you change that and the skill changes, because the person's like, wow, I have more energy or I have less, but I felt like I got a lot out of this exercise. Sometimes just swapping the program around is enough to stimulate growth for some people that has been stagnant, or I'm bored and this always feels the same. Be like, swap it up, don't even have to change exercises versus
because
random.
technically there's no good or bad exercise to start with.
No, but some people think it should be random. I'm like, it's not random.
Yeah.
You can still be targeted, but all of a sudden I'm changing just the exercise I already know how to do in a different order, and I had a whole different workout.
Gotcha. Sweet. Well, there was actually a lot of information even for me, and like a lot like to learn. It's like I've never really done like any like shoulder workout with anyone. So like, I don't know, I feel like I'm always curious when I do like a new muscle because I'm like, you always think you know better, there's not much more to learn. So it's always very interesting. So that definitely is gonna make me very excited for like shoulders workout next few like weeks and just get better at those and just play with that. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed and took a lot of it from it. And let me guys know what you guys want to see next with Eric. So thank you guys for watching and we'll see you in the next video.